So let's start. So hi, this is Angelica, and for the past few days, I had conducted a community survey on overseas Filipino workers, or OFW. So a term often used to refer Filipino citizenship who reside in another country for a limited period of employment. And there's a lot of factors that can cause them or will cause them to work abroad. And now I'll present to you the results in my survey entitled Community Mapping on Overseas Filipino Workers. So we have these following guide questions. First, how long you have stayed abroad? Second, what are the purpose for their stay abroad? And third, what were their most unforgettable experiences there? List at least 3, and how will they describe them? Is it good or bad? Fourth, how would they compare the Philippines with the countries they stayed in terms of population, job opportunities, social equality, for example, the education and delivery of basic services, for example, healthcare and transportation. So do they want to go abroad again in the future? Why or why not? So let's proceed. So this survey was conducted through a chat-based interview due to the pandemic, and we're obliged to follow the health protocols as well. So we asked for permissions to conduct a survey of 2 overseas Filipino workers, and we have here the following answers on our first respondent. So we will not mention the name since it is confidential. And so here's the answer. First, how long you have stayed abroad? So our first respondent answered or replied, and she said that he stayed abroad for about 5 years and 2 months as a domestic helper. Second, what are the purpose for their stay abroad? So, she replied, para sa kaugmaon sa akong mga anak, need og dako nga income para sa pagpaeskwela nila bisan ang atong nasod na ako'y work, but still dili kaigo labi na og college. So, common reason why they migrated to other countries was to earn bigger money for their families to support the financial needs of their children studying in college. So, because our own country fails to provide higher wage rate that can support the needs of all people. So, third question. So, the third question will be, what were their most unforgettable experiences there? List at least 3, and how will they describe them? Is it good or bad? So, her answer was, ang dili na ko makalimtan diri kay sa bag-o pa ko diri, demonyo kay ako mga amo og higpit kaayo na ako ato nga time. So first, bawal ko hawag og cellphone. Second, bawal ko gunit sa akong salary. Og third, gisuway ra day ko nila og salamat sa Ginoo kay nausab sila karon sobra nakabuotan. So different scenarios will be faced in your stay abroad as a worker. So it could be good or bad, but still some ignored all the pain just to provide and support their family's needs. So, here in the Philippines. So, that's it. A fourth question. Fourth question will be, how would they compare the Philippines with the countries they stayed in terms of population, job opportunities, social equality, example, the education, and delivery of basic services, example, the healthcare or transportation. So, she replied that, sa ako na obserbahan, lahi og pamaagi ang UAE or United Arab Emirates kontar sa Pilipinas, kay ngano na ay magkalisod diri agakon sa gobyerno ipahimutang tagaan og trabaho ug ang ilang gobyerno walay pili about sa education. Dili sila kinsa tong parent alay ika-afford eskwela ang gobyerno mo pa eskwela about sa healthcare. Nindot sila og serbisyo, dili pinili. Og sa katilingban, hapsay sila modala sa ilang nasod. So based on her observation, United Arab Emirates or UAE is way much better than the Philippines. Because in UAE, if there's a certain person really having hard time, for example, financially, the government will support them. The government will give them jobs. So in terms of education, the government will also support the students if in case the family can't afford to send their children to schools. So, in terms of healthcare, UAE government is fair for all. So there's no certain person that will be prioritized. Even if you're poor or rich, they'll give you the same treatment. So in terms of the way they handle their nation, based on my respondent, UAE is a well-organized country. Next question, the last question. Based on our respondent, sa Pilipinas naa may trabaho nga maayo pero kulang ra gihapon kay daghan mga deduction sa mga insurance compare diri once naa nata diri ilang gobyerno mao'y magbayad nato sa insurance kung pila imong monthly limpyo gyud na madawat nimo alay kulang. So muna iyahang observation. So based on her, Philippines offers many jobs, but still it's not enough to support all their needs. Wages are deducted for insurance and transportation. Unlike in UAE, they'll receive a clean wage without deduction for insurances because the government will be the one who pays for it. So, last question. Do they want to go abroad again in the future? Why or why not? So, her answer, yes. Ganahan kayo hangtod sa kutob surrender akong mga amo nako kay tungod lain na ang paagi diri sa imong sweldo, dawat kalimpyo walay iban bisag piso kay libre tanan og anha pod sa Pilipinas narbaho okay man pero lugi sa pamasahe daan og mga deduction kasagaran sa mga abroad na natumong lang sa maayong amo mobalik gyud tungod sa patakaran sa gobyerno sa Pilipinas. So based on her, she will go back again in UAE where she works for as long as her boss will not advise her to stop working for them because he loved the way UAE gives their wage without any deductions. So let's proceed to our second respondent. So, gikandak niya po na siya through chat-based interview. So, the same platform used in the survey and same questions were given as well. And here's his answers. So, how long you have stayed abroad? His answer was 2 years and 5 months. So, he worked for 2 years and 5 months in Europe. And what are the purpose for their stay abroad? Answer is, niari ko diri para magtrabaho. So, for work purposes gid siya. Third, what were their most unforgettable experiences there? List at least 3 and how will they describe them, good or bad? So, his answer, first experience nako is not good. Dugay magpasweldo. So, manay first niya, not good daw ang iyang experiences. Second was, okay rang work na ako diri sa Europe, maayo ang sweldo. So, okay ra daw. And sa third, pait lang kung mag-winter diri sa Europe, kay tugnaw kaayo, nya slide kaayo ang snow. So, manay mga unforgettable experiences niya dito sa Europe. Respondent number 2, how would they compare the Philippines with the countries they stayed in terms of population, job opportunities, social equality, for example, the education, and delivery of basic services, for example, the healthcare and transportation? So, answer, dako galayan diri sa Europe, kay naay disiplina, bahin sa driving og sa mga pedestrian lane, nya ang government nila suportado ang mga estudyante. Nya naa pa sila'y monthly allowance para sa mga estudyante diri sa Denmark, nya maayo sad ilaha public transport, bahin sa healthcare, okay kaayo kay naa may mansad insurance. So overall, mas better daw ang Europe kaysa sa Philippines, which is our country. Kay disiplinado daw kasi nandito ang mga tao. Bahin lang sa mga pedestrian lane, sa driving, not unlike sa atua, which is we know that currently that nanidaghan kasi ng mga accidents due to undisciplined ang mga tao. So, last question. Do they want to go abroad again in the future? Why or why not? So, yan tubag. Oo, ganahan ko hangtod mahuman og eskwela ang akong mga anak, nya makatigom og para negosyo sa Pinas. So, mo na yung answer why he would like to go back in Europe. So, let's do a second survey to determine the following. So, after sa tong census, natay second survey, which is kani. So, first question, how different homes are supported by migrant or immigrant workers? So, first respondent ni nga answer. So, their homes and families in the Philippines are now in good state. They remodeled their house and bought a lot where they planted vegetables as a source of income or as a sort of a small business. So they have a motorcycle vehicle which before they can't afford to buy, but when she works abroad, she can now sustain all the needs of her family in the Philippines. So sa second respondent, they are now unstable. They owned a new car and bought lots of things in their house. So their family was supported very well by the migrant worker. Sa second question, check the way they dress, their neighbors' houses, their vehicles, if any, etc. Provide a photo if necessary. So first respondent, it can be concluded that with the support of migrant worker, their way of living really changed a lot. So they can now afford to buy expensive things or a lot or utang. So ang second respondent, based on the way they dress, their cars and house, so it can be concluded that they live their life now without any financial problem and so on. They can now support or buy anything they want or travel they want where they want to. So that's it. So here's the documentation or the photo. So sa first respondent na nasa motorcycle, as what I have said lately, and a lot for their vegetable crops. Respondent number 2, they bought a new car, and that's it, and some things for their house. So here's the documentation. So respondent number 1 and 2 says ang convos. So, dili na ako siya gi-attach ang convos namo since I don't have time nga mag-adto sad sila balay. And for ang respondent number 1 which is kaning girl and respondent number 2 which is kaning boy. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you for watching.